It's time for the RMAC Radio Show, featuring all the latest information from around the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. The RMAC is a proud member of NCAA Division II. Now, here's your host, Eric Danner.
Welcome to the RMAC Radio Show, week number 2 from our studio here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. My name is Eric Danner, and week 1 of RMAC football in the books, a pretty successful week, we might add, 5-3 in the 8 games, and you don't have to look too far back to see when the RMAC would struggle to win maybe one game in the first week of football. So 5-3, a very respectable record. I had a chance to go down to CSU Pueblo, check out their game against West Texas, a big win by the Thunderwolves, 44-34. 6th-ranked Pack beat number 24 West Texas, and that one we had some players of the week we'll mention a little later on in the show from that game, but had a chance to talk with John Riston after the game, and here's what he had to say.
No, it doesn't send any message. This win does not define us. Your next game really defines who we are. And then we got to keep going game by game. So we got to win the day, and we got to keep focused on that.
So CSU Pueblo with a big victory there. They play at Northwest Oklahoma this week. Another big win in terms of region. New Mexico Highlands defeating Eastern New Mexico 44-14. So the RMAC going 2-1 against the Lone Star Conference, which this year is very large because they are now in our region as opposed to previous years where we're in with the Northern Sun. And another big game that happened this past weekend was Colorado Mesa traveling to Humboldt State. Not exactly the result they wanted. Humboldt State, a very good team, number 21 in the country, and Mesa loses 38-19, but I think they did get some answers about some players and maybe some answers about where they're headed this season. And we're now joined on the RMAC hotline by the head coach of the Mavericks. His name is Russ Martin. Coach Martin, how's it going today?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going okay. We're starting that rebuilding process for game number 2. And you're right, there were some good things that happened out there, and now we have to expand on those, and we have to correct mistakes. And kind of like all coaches, hopefully this is going to be the biggest jump we make this year.
Talking with Coach Martin from Colorado Mesa University. And, Coach, looking at the box score, I didn't have a chance to check the game out, but you had a freshman starting quarterback, I believe his name is pronounced Deke Cisco, put up a lot of yards for you, both the running and passing. This is a kid most RMAC fans are not familiar with. Tell us a little bit about him and how you came to the idea to start him as a freshman.
Well, I'll tell you what, it kind of grew. Deke is an outstanding young man and a good quarterback. He's out of Cactus High School down in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And throughout the spring, he tended to grade out best. And then through the summer and then even into fall camp, because we did not make any early decisions on that, he just continued to show that he was basically the one that was probably the most comfortable as a leader of our offense. And Deke went out there, and I mean, he had a few mistakes, but also he did a lot of really good things. And the exciting thing for us was as the game went on, he started to play with more and more confidence, and that's what we've got to do. He's a very athletic young man. He can run the football, he can throw the football, and we just got to get him a little bit more comfortable in the system and get him a few more reps. Several of the things that happened were, team things. And so as we look at it, we're trying to make sure that we can surround him with a great game plan, but also really help all of our players understand the involvement that they have, not just from an offensive perspective, but from defense and from the special teams that will affect our overall team performance. So, it's not the first time I've went with freshman quarterbacks. I've had freshman quarterbacks in quite a few places that I've coached, and it's just a standpoint that we felt he was the best guy for the job, and he deserved the opportunity.
Talking with Coach Russ Martin from Colorado Mesa University, and again, looking at the numbers, Coach, Cisco had 157 yards rushing, but then when you subtract, I believe, the sack numbers, then it was down to 76. So again, from looking at the numbers, are you running more of an option-style attack, or was he just taking advantage of running the ball when he could?
Well, he was taking advantage of running the ball when he could, and I mean, it is. We're still running basically a lot of option-type things, a lot of read plays, and Deke did a very good job with that. We had he's got to get rid of the ball in a passing game on a couple deals. And some of that was we didn't necessarily give him the ideal situation on a couple things, but so we'll continue to work on that phase of it. He just missed a couple of big throws for us that could have been huge. And so it's a standpoint that for Deke, he's a young man that he fits our system very well because it's very similar to what we had done at Nebraska Kearney. It's kind of a combination of Nebraska Kearney and Chadron State. And if you look at it, it's very much a quarterback-driven offense. And so we want him to be able to make checks, to throw the football, run the football, and he can take advantage of that. I think the other thing is we've got some very good running backs, and people will need to respect that. And I think because of that, it will open up some opportunities for Deke. And the biggest thing is again, just decisions, and decisions on a consistent basis.
Colorado Mesa opened up the season with a loss at Humboldt State. We're talking with their head coach, Russ Martin, and Jake Chameli, one of those running backs you talk about, Coach. Here's a guy had a very good season last year and seems like he's picking up where he took off last year.
I'll tell you what, Jake is a very good running back, and we're excited to have him in our backfield. And he had a very good night the other night. He also had a little shovel pass called back that basically would have been about a 65-yard touchdown run for him. And so Jake can be an explosive and a big play player, but he's also a tough yard-type player. And so he's a very good combination as far as both having some speed, some elusiveness, and also toughness, which is a great thing for a running back to have. And we're going to count on Jake a lot. And then Thomas Sua also stepped in as running back for us and played very well. And Gabel played a little bit, and he's done some very good things in practice. And one other young man, we really didn't get enough carries or touches the other night. That's kind of an electric player for us. Is DJ Hubbard, and we're gonna work on getting DJ the ball a little bit more as well. So we feel good with that standpoint. And like I said, Eric, it's a situation that we know there are things that we control, and that is our performance, that's our execution. And that's really what we're going to focus on this week, of just trying to get more consistent with our execution, and we're going to have a major test up there at Northern Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado Mesa makes the trip to Greeley to play UNC 1:35 kickoff, and this one's going to be televised by our television partner, Altitude Sports and Entertainment. Coach, you got to be excited about that for everybody in the region to be able to see on live TV, but also you got some guys on your coaching staff that know what it takes to go into Greeley and pull off a victory. So you're going to be leaning on some of their comments this week?
Oh, absolutely. Several years ago, Chadron State went down there, and with Coach Boyle, Coach Aller, and several of their coaches that are here with us now, and they pulled off a win at Greeley, and they've also, that's the same staff, pulled off a win up at Montana State. And so they understand the big games, and that's kind of what we're trying to get our players to understand, is that even as we go in, just because a team may be at a higher level or higher division situation, it doesn't mean that they outplay us. It's going to come down to execution on the field and expectation. And so I think as we prepare this week, we're going in with the expectation that we have the opportunity to win a football game, and it is within our control to execute our system offensively, defensively, and special teams. And so as we practice and prepare, that's really what we're focusing on is how good can we be, because that's the measure of any team. It's not really who you're playing on Saturday. It's how close are you to being the best team you're capable of being. And so that's really what we're focusing on. But, yeah, it's great having their experience, as we get ready to go into Greeley there this week.
Talking with Russ Martin, head football coach at Colorado Mesa University in his first year after spending the last few years as offensive coordinator at Nebraska Kearney. And, Coach, with that UNC game coming up, you had the trip to Humboldt, which is in California, if people aren't familiar with Humboldt State. So 2 road trips to start the season. But this one, I got to imagine you got a lot of kids on the Front Range, and might be a chance for a lot of Colorado Mesa alums who live maybe in the Denver, Fort Collins area, Greeley area, to come down and support you.
Very much so, and that's kind of one of the reasons we're excited about it. Is I think it does give us some great exposure out in the Front Range, and obviously that's going to be one of our major recruiting grounds. And I think if you look at it, it's a great location for a lot of the Front Range Mesa alums to come to a ball game out there. Matter of fact, I believe on Friday, I think there's a bunch of the alums that are having a golf outing in the Denver area, and then planning on getting together Saturday for the game. So it's a great experience for them having us play right out there in their backyard, so to speak. And it's a great recruiting opportunity for us, both because of playing in the Front Range, but the television exposure. You're talking about basically a huge area that is going to be involved in having the opportunity to see us on TV. And you know what? Players love that. And so we're excited about that opportunity. And as we get closer to the game, I know that as coaches, you really don't pay a whole lot of attention to it at that point. But at this juncture, it's a great thing for us to have that situation happen for us, Eric.
Well, hey, Coach, we want to wish you the best of luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is Russ Martin, head football coach at Colorado Mesa University. Again, you can check that game out on Altitude if you can't get to the game in person. 1:35 Mountain Time kickoff, and I know normally they'll replay that game several times, so you want to check the schedule on Altitude if you happen to be at the game so that you can check out that one. So that'll be one of the fun ones to watch this weekend. But to get you caught up on what happened this past weekend in RMAC football, let's head over to Chris Polton, who has our RMAC recap.
Thanks, Eric. Reigning RMAC champions CSU Pueblo executed their offense to perfection Friday night. The 6th-ranked Thunderwolves bounced 12th-ranked West Texas A&M at the Thunderbowl 44-34. CSUP sophomore running back J.B. Matthews led the way for the Pack. Matthews had 186 yards with 25 carries, adding a touchdown while catching 4 passes for 78 yards and a TD. Colorado Mesa offense looked up to snuff early in Golden, Colorado. William Jewell College couldn't contain the aerial attack of Ordiger QB Matt Brown, who went 23 for 30 with 358 yards and 4 TDs. Sophomore Diamond Gillis was on the receiving end of 2 of Brown's 4 touchdowns. Ordiger's win 57-16. New Mexico Highlands started down 14-0 to Eastern New Mexico, and behind Jordan Campbell, preseason Defensive Player of the Year, the Cowboys tallied 42 unanswered points. Campbell had 10 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, one of which was returned for a touchdown. Final score 42-14 Cowboys. Western New Mexico survived a shootout in Alpine, Texas against Sul Ross State 54-44. Quarterback Mitch Glassman went 18 for 34 with 264 yards and 4 TDs. Glassman connected with Marquis Sumter for 2 of those touchdowns, one of which a 61-yard connection. Adams State College used their swarming defense against Dixie State to capture their home opener 17-9. Linebacker Vince Coach compiled 16 tackles, 1 sack, and an interception to lead the Grizzlies defense. Colorado Mesa opened their season on the road at Humboldt State and didn't get off to the start they wanted. The Jacks had a punt return, a 64-yard run, and an INT, all for touchdowns en route to a 38-19 victory. Chadron State under new regime Jay Long taking on Montana State University. The Bobcats trounced the Eagles 33-6 in Bozeman on Friday night as the Eagles only able to muster 135 yards on offense. Lastly, Western State hit the road to San Angelo, Texas, and a date with Angelo State. The Mountaineers were able to score the first points in the first quarter, but the Rams would quickly tie the game and then the next possession take the lead on a punt return for a touchdown. Final score 42-14 Angelo. I'm Chris Fulton, and that's your RMAC recap.
Thank you, Chris. We have our RMAC football players of the week. Offense goes to Matt Brown from Colorado Mines, 358 yards, 4 touchdown passes in that victory over William Jewell. Defensive player of the week goes to Kevin Cuff of CSU Pueblo at 11 tackles and a huge pick 6 in which he showed some pretty good wheels. So Kevin Cuff, one of the guys attempting to replace Lee Meisner, who was recently released by the Atlanta Falcons. Special teams player of the week goes to Greg O'Donnell of CSU Pueblo, freshman kicker. We kind of wondered, Kyle Major had been such a great kicker in the RMAC the last couple of years. How are they going to replace him? Well, Greg O'Donnell comes in his first game, kicks 3 field goals, several extra points, including he had a field goal at the end of half as time expired. So congratulations to him, special teams player of the week. We got on the docket for RMAC football this week. Adams State travels to Wayland Baptist. That's going to be a 1 o'clock Mountain Time game. New Mexico Highlands, Fort Lewis, the first RMAC game of the year. The Skyhawks did not play last week, so they open up the game with an RMAC opponent in New Mexico Highlands, who beat Eastern New Mexico. Chadron State travels to Angelo State. The Angelo State Rams had defeated Western State last week. Another long road trip for Coach Jay Long. Colorado Mesa, as we mentioned, at UNC. Black Hills State opens with a 1AA game at Idaho State. The Bengals played last week against Air Force. That's going to be a 4 o'clock Mountain Time kickoff. West Texas will host Western State. The Buffaloes, of course, lost to CSU Pueblo last week, so that'll be a big one as the Thunderwolves figure to be even higher in the rankings this week at Northwest Oklahoma. That's a 7 o'clock Central Time kickoff, which is 6 o'clock Mountain Time. Colorado Mines travels to Rapid City, South Dakota to play South Dakota Mines in a meeting of the Mines, 6 p.m. kickoff. And Western New Mexico will travel to the University of San Diego. That's a 1AA opponent, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. So that'll be 7 o'clock Mountain Time. That does it for RMAC football. When we come back, we're going to talk with Debbie Hendricks, head volleyball coach at Metro State University of Denver. You're listening and watching the RMAC Radio Show.